Boundless AT is proud to show you the Akrobet HD Ultra short arm from Enhanced Vision. This is a wonderful camera attached to a very sturdy arm that connects to this heavy metal base. This ensures that the camera is ready to go for low vision applications. People can connect this via HDMI to a monitor or a television that they already own. Then they can adjust magnification here with buttons right on the camera. They can zoom in, zoom out, change colors, as well as get an overview of what they're looking at. Let's go ahead and show you what it looks like standing up. We have the camera now plugged into its base, so you can see the amount of swivel and control over where the camera is pointing that somebody has. So they can connect it to a monitor, and we'll show you that here in a bit, and get things, pointing where they need to point. But there's also two sets of controls right here on the camera head for us. They did that to support different types of uses. So right now, if the camera's pointing down, I can control it right here on the face, but I can also swivel this camera and point it away so I can look at maybe a presentation, or maybe I have a bird feeder outdoors I'm interested in looking at. Then there's a little lens that pops open, and we can go ahead and direct this and point outside all we want and make adjustments to the magnification. I can also use this to go ahead and use it as a mirror, so I can point it at myself and have a mirror. And we'll go ahead now and show you what this machine can really do when it's connected to a monitor. We now have the Akrobet HD Ultra short arm connected to a television. So this is a 32-inch screen, much larger than your traditional desktop CCTV magnifier. Remember, those come in between about 20 to 24 inches. So if we already have a television or a large monitor we want to work with, we can get a tool like this, connect it to it, and have kind of a setup that allows us to leverage stuff we already own. Now, it's not quite as convenient as one of those all-in-one solutions. We do have to connect this. It is, sometimes hard to get things set up just right and all that. But when you do, it's very powerful. And you can see the benefits it starts to pay when we show you the significant magnification available to us now using a machine like this. So for example, we have this coin here. I mean, this is really only the beginning. We can really zoom in quite a ways and get a lot more magnification with something like this. And we also, since it is on this arm, we have all this space we can work with. So if we're a hobbyist and we want to work with maybe fixing some old watches, or working with perhaps something small in our hands, you can see the incredible visual quality and clarity we would have with a device like this. It works just as well for reading as well. I mean, here's a pill bottle. We can go ahead and zoom in here, do all the same color contrasts and things like that we would with other machines. And we have all that space underneath the camera to work with. Similarly, for doing crosswords and puzzles of things like that, we have a lot of room underneath this camera that we could work with. You see there, it's looking at my pen. An issue a lot of people run into with machines when they want to do that is the cameras follow their pens. We don't want that. So what we have on this camera is the ability to have the focus be locked, and we can go ahead and then work underneath this camera as much as we want, and then have the ability to write underneath it. So it's not tracking my pen quite as much, it's looking more at what I've written. So all this motion I'm giving it isn't setting it off, which we like. So that is the Akrobet HD Ultra. It's a great tool for folks looking to have as much magnification as possible, or folks just looking to leverage a screen they already own. If you'd like to discuss it with us, we'd love to talk with you. Give us a call, 866-606-8551. Thanks so much.
Good morning. Today I'm going to be talking to you about the Acrobat. Personally, it's one of my favourites. I'll go through that as I go along, but basically the ability to move the camera around is one of the biggest advantages of it. It's very popular for people that do hobbies. The main reason for that is basically the height between the object and the camera. The camera is totally automatically focusing, so it doesn't matter what I do underneath there, it will refocus itself. But what I can also do with it, if I'm working at a specific height, I can basically just lock a focus as well, which means that the focus is always going to be in that position. So the advantage of a focus lock is immediately, as an example, if you're using it for something like painting, rather than the camera try to focus on the top of the object up here, you want it to focus actually on the bottom down here, which is out of focus because I set the focus lock higher. So there's my pen. So basically, yeah, you don't want it to focus on the top of the paintbrush, you want it to focus on the tip of the paintbrush, which is where you're painting down here. And it basically saves the camera hunting all the time. So as soon as I release the focus lock by pressing a button on the remote control, the camera refocuses itself. Straight away, that's a huge advantage, particularly if you're doing something very tiny like on a circuit board or wiring a plug or something like that. As you'll see, it gives really good image quality, and the actual camera is really simple to use, but I'll go through the controls with you in a few minutes. Going back to the movement of the camera, specifically I like it because on most electronic magnifiers you're fixed in a set position. The beauty of the Acrobat is I can raise it up, which gives me a bigger overview, or I can move it further down, and I can even move it right over here, so I can basically work wherever I want to. Just caught the colour change button there. So straight away I can work exactly where I want to work, and for me that makes a massive difference, particularly for a hobbyist, and importantly for people in employment as well. From my own experience, I've lots and lots of experience doing access to work installations, and I've seen some pretty amazing things that the Acrobat has been used for, and to name a few, I did one where a chap couldn't see the end of a lathe, so he basically mounted the camera to the desk, and because it does distance viewing as well, he basically had a screen and he could pinpoint exactly where the lathe was set in relation to the material he was cutting. Another example I can think of was a security guard, and he had lots and lots of little screens above him with lots of different cameras that he had to monitor, and because the camera does distance viewing, so there's a wall planner on the wall there, he was basically just using the camera here to magnify the littler screens, and then obviously because he's closer to the screen as well and magnified, it means that he could see the screens a lot closer. Other examples are checkout points, so at tills, and again because the arm is very small, and basically you can just push that camera out of the way when you're not using it, which means that somebody else can use that till or share the desk with somebody else. It just means that basically it's very versatile with how it's set up and what you connect it to as well. This is just a 22-inch television. You can connect it to anything with a HDMI connection or a DVI connector, which means it will go pretty much into any television or any computer screen. The functionality of it is really simple. I'll put the remote control under so you can see a bit larger here. So we've got power, simply the on and off. Freeze is a freeze frame. Lock, I'll try not to draw on the remote. Lock is the focus lock that I've just discussed. Most important buttons are the white circle. So the top half of the circle, if I press that, will make things bigger. Bottom half will make things smaller. Button on the right simply changes the contrast and colours, and you've got no limitation on that. You can pretty much set it to any colour combination you want, to whatever suits your eyes. And like most machines or electronic magnifiers, certainly it's got a find feature here, so if I press and hold that and zoom out, it gives me an overview. Personally, I think on a lot of CCTVs that feature is pretty useless. However, on the Acrobat, particularly particularly if you're using it for something like arts, is what you might find is you magnify into a certain section and paint here. And then obviously once you've done that section, you might want a quick overview of how that looks in relation to the rest of the page, and that will give you a better overview of what you're looking at. As soon as I let go of the button, it will remember the magnification I was on and zoom into the central point. So I think that's a really, really cool feature, particularly on the Acrobat. I can control the functions up here on the actual camera head as well. Other buttons below here are used a lot less. So WB, or down here, WB is white balance, and generally that just goes through different shades of whites. So we've got cool on there, and generally I just leave it on auto, because what the camera's doing then is monitoring the light around it, especially if it's next to a window. You might have a dull day and a bright day, and the camera just adjusts itself accordingly. And then we've got lots of green buttons. LM on and off stands for line markers. Line markers again can be useful if you're a hobbyist, particularly if you're a writer, because that gives you a straight line to work across. And basically the buttons below that, they control the line positioning. So I can take the bottom line up and down, and the top line up and down. If the two lines meet, they'll just take each other down or back up. And again, they can be quite useful if you're writing or you need an actual straight line. One of the popular things I get asked about this particular product is a lot of people that have used electronic magnifiers before say, well, it hasn't got an XY table, which is a platform that moves around down here. This is all done by freehand. We do a separate table for it if somebody does want an XY table. So they are available as well, so that's not an issue. In a workplace environment, the beauty of the Acrobat is there's no software involved. So a lot of government buildings we go into, a lot of schools, they don't like actually installing software onto their computer systems because they don't know what it is that we're putting on there. The beauty of the Acrobat is it's all hardwired, so there's no software at all involved. You just plug it in and away it goes. Where was I going with that? Another common setup is, particularly if you're doing a lot of data entry, is that you would have dual screens. So you'd have the Acrobat on one screen and your computer screen on the other, and you would probably have your monitors like that so you can see side by side, and then I can adjust this over here. And then what I can do is look at information here, and the other screen would be here, and I can see input data from here into my computer, obviously with a keyboard. That's a really, really common office setup, and like I say, if you're in somewhere like a call centre, a lot of people might use that desk when you're not there. The beauty of this is I can just turn it off, put that out the back, out the way, and the next person, because it's not using any software, is free to just come on this computer. As soon as I turn that off, that would go back onto being a dual screen, so you'd have two computer screens there. Another really good feature about the Acrobat is a lot of people work in different locations, so I might use this in my workplace, but when I get home I've then got nothing. Rather than buy this setup twice, the beauty of the Acrobat is the camera dismounts. So I can just basically take the camera off, transport that home and put it on on an arm I've already got at home. So basically that saves a lot of money because this is the expensive bit. Another thing you can do is switch them between arms. So this is what we call the Acrobat long arm. This one here is the short arm. Personally, I prefer the Acrobat long arm. The disadvantage of it though is it clamps onto the desk. The short arm sits on a base, which means you can move it around a bit more here, but you get less flexibility on the top half. And obviously you haven't got the height that you get there with the Acrobat long arm, because that goes a lot higher and it gives you a much bigger overview. I'll plug that back in, see how quickly that goes. Fiddle. It's a brand new one, so it's going to be nice and tight. There we go. As I said, for me, the game changer with this one, you can pretty much work anywhere. I can have the camera over there and then angle it towards me, and then I can work here. And again, it's just a practice thing, knowing where the camera's looking. One of the hardest parts about the Acrobat is when you're using it. I wouldn't say it's a flaw, it's because of the way that it's set up, but when you are using it, you have to have your object straight. You have to have the camera head straight as well, because otherwise you end up reading up or downhill. So that's just something to be wary of, but I think it's got a lot of advantages over that. And equally, if you're using an XY table, you've got to ensure that the camera is straight with the XY table so that everything moves in a straight line. And that's pretty much it, really. The other model that we do that I haven't got shown here is what we call the Acrobat LCD. Now the cameras on all of these ARM models is the same, so the functionality is the same. They've got buttons on the top as well and on the side, but they all do the same job, which is the same as the round circle on the remote control, which is the primary controls: increase, decrease, magnification, colour change, and the find feature. The other model we do is called the Acrobat LCD, and that actually has an arm over the top of its own screen, and it comes with a 20-inch, 22-inch, 24-inch and 27-inch. But again, because of that, you can move it this way and that way, but you haven't got the option of taking it higher or lower like you do with this model, because the arm comes over the top. I like this one because you can raise it up and down, and you can't do that with this one either, and I think that makes a big difference, because with magnifiers, the higher the camera, the more you see. You get a bigger overview. And again, going back to a scenario where that might be useful, I've done a few access to work assessments demos where the person might be a designer, graphic designer, planner, something like that, and they've got big open spreadsheets and they need a bigger overview of what they're looking at, so I can just swing this around wherever I want to look. The line markers, because I've still got them on, you can have them horizontal, vertical. You get blackout blinds as well, but again, it's very rare I see people use them. And principally, that's as simple as it is. One thing you can do with it, some people ask me if you can split between the computer and the camera if you're using it through a computer screen. You can't actually what we call split screen with it, but it does come with a toggle box, which means I can press a button here and it will switch back to my computer screen. As soon as I press it again, it switches back to being a magnifier like it is now. And primarily that's as simple as it is, but like I say, as I keep emphasising, the biggest advantage of it is you can work wherever suits your needs. I've drawn on myself as well. Thanks for taking the time to watch. As always, if you've got any questions, queries, I'll put some links on at the bottom of the post. I'll leave some contact details as well. If anybody's got any questions, feel free to contact us. Thanks for taking the time to watch.